met and everybody scintillated the morning or started us off to a good start, I believe. And as Dean was saying, Visionnaire Ventures is a new fund, and I have the distinct pleasure of having 4 panelists here, and we're going to cover the topic of essentially how do you get discovered and what are some of the drivers of successfully marketing your game. So with that, could each of you introduce yourself, please, starting with Jude?
Sure. My name's Jude. I'm from London originally. I am one of the founders of Heyzap, and I'm trying to solve the game discovery problem for users on mobile.
Zach, I'm a VP of Publisher Development at PlayHaven. PlayHaven is a business engine for mobile games, which helps game developers acquire, engage, and monetize their users.
My name is Alegre. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Chartboost. We make technology to help games be more successful in making more money and getting more users. And we're based here in San Francisco.
My name is Kristian Segerstrale. I'm the co-founder of Initial Capital. We're a seed investor rather in game companies and other consumer internet companies. I've been a games entrepreneur for a while, being co-founder of what today is Glue Mobile out in Europe, as well as being the chief executive co-founder of PlayFish, reached in at EA, and now with Initial Capital we were seed investors, or rather led the seed round into Supercell, for example, so I've been on the board of that for a while.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Before I get started, let me see a show of hands in terms of how many of you are game developers or related with a development team? Okay. And related to mobile games? Majority of you, okay. So some of the topics, as you can tell, 3 of our panelists are actually engaged in marketing or aiding the discovery of games. And so with that in mind, some of the questions that we'd like to kick off with is, there's usually a baseline of gamers that are attracted to some of the games that are coming to you guys, right? So what are some of the drivers that multiply that traffic that you guys are actually engaged in enabling through your ecosystem or your platform? Maria?
Well, you're talking about multipliers, and when we work with 30,000 games, and when we're looking at all the games that we're working with, we care about the multipliers, but there's no point of multiplying something that is lower than 0, right? So we care a lot about the value actually and how you build that value, and what are the key drivers to build that value. We think that multipliers are super important later, but what you need to be focused on is building that value. And I mean, I would love to. I don't want to be asking the question, but I would love to kind of hear what are the things that we believe that drive this value.
Okay, well, I mean, from that perspective, going a little bit deeper then, you know, Kristian, you've been involved in game development and publishing and now funding. When you look at some of the hot games, AAA games, what are some of the key drivers of success of those games, would you say? First?
Yeah, so I would actually say that people emphasize pure sort of raw acquisition marketing almost too much today, in that people think you need massive budgets, which actually isn't true. It's true Maria and others are doing an awesome job at opening up real marketing channels for mobile games companies, which is great, and you can spend your way clearly to some user base. But actually the things that I focus most on, and again, I work with very early stage companies. I tend to invest somewhere between an alpha and an early beta of something, where we work with Supercell and with other companies since. And the thing that I'm mostly focused on is actually the product itself, both in terms of does it actually differentiate in that either through some form of innovation of early game mechanic that you feel like, hey, this is new and different. There's like tens of thousands of games out there, so how do you make sure that this genuinely feels different? And how do you think about it from a positioning perspective, that like from a product marketing perspective, is this something that actually sort of feels fresh, mechanic aside? Is there a theme, and is there something associated with that game that actually makes it stand out and makes it frankly easy to market through all these different channels? So those kind of things actually I spend by far the most time on. And it's true that you need a great acquisition marketing strategy when you launch, and Maria and others can help you with that. But to me, that is ultimately sort of an augmentation. If the product itself and the theme and the mechanics that you sort of, that experience through the first couple of days of gaming, if that doesn't deliver, then whatever you spend with these guys is not going to deliver your success.
Sure.
So that's what I'm mostly focused on.
I know Maria's like chomping at the
Yeah.
bit, but
No, I mean, I agree. You do that value and then you multiply. And for us, what helps you build that value is saying something that feels fresh. It's a combination of being on the right platform, a platform that helps you reach millions of users and then reach their wallets. It's a combination of designing this, what you're calling this fresh element, which we're calling it like a manageable challenge. Is something that is very related to how you make the game fun and how is it hard enough so you want to keep playing, but easy enough so you feel you can win. And then how do you design the business model at the same time that you design the game itself. So it's not an afterthought. You do both things at the same time.
so if I may, it sounds like, from a publisher or rather marketing perspective, there are certain elements of a game that's innately already a driver there. And from Kristian's point of view as an investor, you're looking at rather themes or mechanics that are going to be really engaging that you're investing into.
Yeah, and to be clear, I mostly look for talent. It's not really the investor's job to sit there and tell people what kind of games we should make, all that, as much as I'd love to. So it's at the end of the day, it's all about trying to find the talent that you feel like they've got a unique connection as to where the game might be going next, or might feel like that next breakout title, either because of choice of platform, because of choice of theme, choice of mechanic, choice of something that feels unique and different.
Sure. And from a marketing ecosystem platform perspective, Jude, what are some of the things that you look for besides a big fat checkbook, to be honest, in terms of the game themes, or what do you think will really resonate with your audience base that you can highlight a game for them?
Sure.
Right?
So I think users are always, gamers are always looking for new content. They're always looking for new mechanics, looking for new graphic styles, looking for interesting ways to play. And I think what I look for when I'm looking for a great game, I look for something that's very unique in one of the dimensions, either a mechanic or the graphical style. And if a game developer can put various parts that are unique together, they can make a great experience. So I'm mostly interested in very fresh gaming concepts. In terms, coming back to the multiplier question, I feel like Candy Crush is actually a great case study to look at. So they had an interesting, a 3x3 matchup game that everyone's used to. And then they built an interesting character around it that everyone resonates. They can create a brand from that, that's a multiplier. They got the LTVs high, so that was another multiplier, so they can buy more users. And then they can do cross-promo as well to other games. So from the multiplier perspective, I think there's definitely a core, coming back to what they're talking about, there's a core of the game being interesting, and then there are various parts of multipliers that you can have on the outside, like cross-promotion, the actual money that it's making, and then the user acquisition that comes from it, and the social integration as well with Candy Crush was very interesting from a multiplier perspective. So I guess the multipliers are secondary to the primary game concept.
Right. There's a lot of elements that you touched upon, but if you were to talk about what's the key base of or driver of a multiplier for Candy Crush, what would it be?
I guess Candy Crush had very balanced multipliers. I think the social multiplier was extremely well executed. I think the LTV mechanics and the revenue mechanics were well executed, which means they could spend a lot on marketing. And the cross promotion, I guess I haven't checked that out so much. So the social mechanic, I think, would be one of their strongest points there.
Thanks. And here's a question that Kristian also wanted to explore: is does cross promotion of games work?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. So, PlayHaven offers cross-promotion tools amongst many others, and I think if done correctly, cross-promotion is highly effective. I think a lot of publishers assume by just sending users from one of their games to another that they're making the best decision with how to handle that user, and that's a lot of times not in case true. So they have to be aligned, meaning you have to have a game that's sending users to a similar game where there's interest. And again, you have to take cross-promotion into effect with every other monetization mechanic in the game. So, I'm sending this user to another game. Does that mean I'm foregoing potential IP purchases in this game? And there's a lot beneath the surface other than just sending users from one game to another. So what's the opportunity cost in game A? having sent them to game B. What's a baseline conversion rate? And then also, can I double dip? Can I get this user to play my new game as well as come back to my old game? So a lot underlying, with the basic concept of cross promotion that I think that intelligent publishers that are doing it right, they realize this, and they have an ROI down to what's the value of getting a cross promotion down on a specific cohort of users.
So Kristian, as a board member of Supercell, we talked a little bit about the cross-promotion efforts involved between Clash of Clans and Puzzle and Dragons. Could you speak to a little bit about what was involved there and what the results may be, to the extent that you can?
Yeah, sure. So, those of you who don't know, Supercell did a fairly involved cross-promotion effort with Gomila, so between Clash of Clans and Puzzle and Dragons earlier this summer, in fact. And it was kind of interesting because it was not, strictly speaking, just a cross-promotion, if you like, through banners and videos, but it was actually a fairly deep creative integration between the two titles. And I think both companies have publicly said that they felt that was very, very successful over that time period. Certainly you could see the results in terms of some of the rising, if you like, of Clash of Clans in the Japanese charts, as well as seeing that spike in Puzzle and Dragons in many Western countries. But that was literally character integration both ways. There was a lot of delight in going through dungeons in Puzzle and Dragons and actually discovering Clash of Clans characters in there, and then vice versa. So that was interesting. I think though, on the cross promotion point, what's really interesting to me and what's the heart of the issue is there such a thing as publisher leverage in the market today? My own view is no. In the mid-90s, early 2000s, you could be a publisher in games because access to retail channels was something that was very hard to build, and making games if you were good at making games, didn't mean that you were good at having access to retail channels and vice versa. So it was a good kind of win-win of a combination of a publisher and a developer. Today, though, my sense is that even though a lot of companies claim they have publisher leverage through being able to market better or somehow help monetize better, I think the truth is it's just not there yet. Probably will be there in the next couple of years, because even cross-promotion is only of limited use, if you like. It works when you're integrating well between a set of games. But what is interesting to me is in the next couple of years, as we're now building these global juggernauts, if you like, these large global players, will publisher leverage re-emerge as we get country-specific operations and so on. We're actually managing a player relationship. A company can get better at managing a player relationship, say Germany or China or Brazil, than your average game developer. And then hence there being actually a good deal, if you like, to be made between a publisher and a developer. But that to me is really the essence of it. If you are a company with 2 big hits right now or 3 big hits, does that elevate you to a different level whereby making the 4th hit is easier or not? And I think that's a critical question.
So you think publishers' role is mainly in terms of helping to manage the community of gamers, find the game and actually stay within the game and enjoy interactions? Right?
Yeah, well, I think traditionally the role of a publisher has been to finance the game and then to help bring the game to market one way or the other. I think today the financing remains you need to get money from somewhere. Obviously, you can get it from investors, you can get it from strategic investors, from publishers, from other things. So funding remains real. Access to players right now, you can contract Maria to do your job for you, if you like. You don't need an intermediary between the other players. That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's right. But that is no longer sort of black magic, if you like. It doesn't require extensive global relationships. It requires a couple of relationships that are actually quite easy to get, if you like. Publishing these days can be broken down into atomic bits, if you like, of...
Well, to be fair, sorry, but I think if you're Supercell, right, yes, it only takes a few key relationships, but a lot of the developers out here who are just getting started, who may not necessarily have the arsenal of cash, they actually, I think, would say, we kind of need the help, right? And
but also the cool thing about digital gaming and mobile gaming specifically is that you can start small, and you have access. I think that many of the answers, both about cross-promo and about your publishers, is you're going to pay the answers in data, and any game developer has access to that data themselves. They can see if cross-promotion is working. They can see if that publisher is adding any value, because they can measure exactly what they're doing and what is the value of that multiplier that the publisher ends up being.
Yeah, the trick is though that you can't then sign up to a publisher being your exclusive route to market. I think
nothing exclusive on mobile. Like
exactly.
mobile is all about testing, and it changes every 6 months so much that if you lock yourself into something exclusive, you're letting go of huge opportunities, and it just changes too much. So I'm not against a publisher when a game developer is starting, but it's a lot easier to start small and test these concepts and test if the theme is working out, and launch early or launch only in Canada, and then look at that data, which any game developer has access to in traditional gaming.
I guess my point is that it's so easy to look at that data, and it's so easy to manage those relationships initially when you're small that you just don't need a publisher in the middle. Although, perhaps in the future, if somebody really works this out, of how do we manage customer support in Germany in the best possible way so they come back to my game, maybe at that moment in time there's some leverage from that. But I think we're going through a time right now where it's that benefit, if you like.
Or you have a direct line to carriers that have hundreds of millions of paying subscribers, right?
So which carriers are those?
I can't say.
So for me, the relationship between the publisher and game developers has been evolving. So if we look back in the old days where you used to go down to a shop and buy the physical game in the shop, it was contractual power that really bound the publisher to the game developer. And then exactly, and then we moved into the Facebook era, and the power is really in the network effect of did you have the most massive amount of users to cross-promote into your game, and Zynga had all the power, and the network effect was there. And then with mobile, the social network effects are not there. So, and really what's happened is that the power between publisher and developer has been democratized because of all the tools that we will provide, cross-promotion tools, user acquisition tools, etc. So from that point onwards, that's meant that the lower barriers to entry to what Maria was saying, like you can get into game development because the power relationship with the game developer and the publisher is completely changed. And this to me, because there's a weak power binding now, the publisher is the developer more so. Sure. There are case studies of obviously bigger deals happening, but the individual, you can be the publisher at the same time. You don't have to go through someone else to get a hit.
So, I mean, let's say some of the game developers are sitting there saying, yeah, I agree, screw the publishers. I'll just go work with Jude and Zach and Maria and we're done, right? But one of the models out there right now that is starting to really take off is the in-app purchase, right? So, the question there is, would in-app purchase disrupt the model of, let's say, an ad-supported game business model?
Yeah, so I think it already has. I think we've seen that for years now, that in-app purchases have far outgrown and far surpassed those of any ad-supported model. When you talk to any of the publishers in the top grossing, and ad revenue to them is rounding errors, it's peanuts. So really,
qualify there, for mobile specifically, even for mobile games.
Right. Definitely, even for mobile games. And King announced a couple months ago that they discontinued all ads in their games, in favor of maintaining that user experience. So that's not to say that there isn't, a very lucrative business in ads, given that 95% of users in these games aren't spending money. So we're not all operating charity services over here. So you have to understand, when's the right time to show users ads, when's the right time to capitalize on IAP. And I think the other thing that's interesting, just to throw out there that we're seeing is. We're not seeing as many flash in the pan, indie games go to the top charts and rake in the users and the ad revenue. Given the App Store changes, given sort of the more focused and the more polished providers, we're starting to see the bar raised even more with regards to what does it take to actually get to the top charts, which again goes back to a smart IAP strategy, not one that just try to charge users $50 and get away with it. Those days are behind us. And what we're seeing is, a forcing function of quality, which I think, is good for the industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about, I guess, various aspects of this question, but ultimately, is there a role for publishers, especially in the mobile gaming space?
Do you mean publishers, what you were saying, like publishers, or do you mean publishers making money with ads?
No, so publishing games, not necessarily making money with ads, but actually funding and supporting game titles, right?
I personally believe that model is disappearing on mobile. But there could be another platform around the corner where it becomes super important. Like for example, with Google Glass, I don't think third parties are allowed to advertise on Google Glass. Google had the rights of advertising there, correct me if I'm wrong, which means that it's going to be harder to get your game discovered, which means that the publishing model might come back in. Like to us, I guess to us three, publishers, we call publishers, I suppose, game developers, whereas the old publisher term was like a gatekeeper to distribution.
Sure.
So I think on mobile, that gatekeeper to distribution doesn't really exist anymore. It's Google. It's Google and Apple, and I guess your own smarts on how you can advertise and how you can cross-promote. But on the future platform, publishers may re-emerge. I think it's very platform dependent, how much power there is there.
I think that you're completely against publishers, but I think that the publisher's role is going to be transformed. So the old kind of publisher does not exist on mobile. There is no gatekeeper, as we're all saying, because any developer has access to reaching millions of users. But for me, the new publisher is someone that is thinking about the business model while you're making a game early, at the beginning of making that game. It's not about you finish a game, then you charge $60 and then you sell it. It's about making the game design at the same time that you're making that game. And there needs to be someone in that team that is thinking about making money with that game and how is that different. And then there is to be someone when you're launching that game thinking about how do I reach millions of users and use those multipliers that I have access to. And it's that role that needs to be either inside of the core game team or outside. Yes, but you need that role.
No, so I actually agree with that 100%. What used to be a publisher as a big company with relationships today is replicated by two people. This idea that you have one person who's pretty good at helping guide design in a way which ultimately makes it monetizable over time, increasingly just the game design discipline, to be honest, rather than a publishing discipline. And then there's somebody who understands user acquisition, one way or the other. Those two people, there's two skill sets, if you like, and then of course you need the money, one way or the other, to be able to pay yourself to make the game. So long as you can get hold of those things, then you're done with publishing. The question is just, can you get hold of them? And if you are three people wanting to get your first game going and you're looking for funding, it might be difficult to get funding from other people than a publisher. So we try and do, for example, at Initial Capital, we actually love finding those kind of teams, and we love working with them to help them recruit the talent, because we'd say rather hire those two people and pay them a good salary and give them some equity than give away 50% of all of your future revenue or profit, and marry yourself to a publisher. So I actually think publishers have a role. I just think that small teams need to think about very carefully what they sign up to in the long term, because it's so little, it's such a small skill set.
So as you guys see from an investor perspective or from a marketing perspective, a lot of different teams, who are some of the teams that you think, wow, they really understand how to balance the creative and the content versus the monetization mechanics?
I think right now, the interesting thing is the teams that we're excited about are always creative.
Not
first.
Supercell, but...
No, it's true, right? We're really excited about the teams that are creative first. Even the original founding team of Supercell, they made mobile games for a very long time. And it's all about creating having a vision in your head of an incredible gaming experience you want to bring to life. But having that balanced with somebody inside that founding team who's very savvy about free-to-play and being able to work out how you can marry those two ideas of incredible creative with a business model that ultimately will work out. And then add on top of that some crazy vision and a bet on the future state of the world. Like there was a great bet to be made a couple of years back that maybe what was sort of happening on Facebook was going to have a renaissance on tablets specifically, and in such a way that you perhaps up the production values and loosen up the economies. I mean, it's a great bet on the state of the future. There's people making those kinds of bets right now on a different type of device future or a different type of experience future. And those kind of things are really important.
So I would say Grand Crew is really worth checking out. I was super impressed with their games. And it's great when you're sitting there in a room and a game developer comes in and demos you something and you're like, yeah, gaming as a category is still alive. This is really cool that you can make new stuff that I haven't seen before. And it's very exciting to keep seeing these new teams. I think Plenary as well, from Korea, South Korea, they are also really exciting and what they're doing, they're making new engines, etc. I'm also excited about any teams working on Google Glass as well. I think there's probably a few there that are worth checking out.
Yeah, I think the key is just, to Kristian's point, finding the balance of really creative, really visionary, fun games, but then adding that business acumen and saying, look, we still need to make money off of this game. I think we've seen the opposite end of the spectrum with some game developers who get so passionate about making just a fun game that they forget that they actually need to make money off of it. But then on the flip side, you see a ton of games who just throw in just the most ridiculous IEP price points that just harass users, which backfires. So it's finding that harmony, to Kristian's point, and introducing the creative, fun content, but then a smart business model.
So any companies that come to mind that represent that concept, you think?
Obviously, everyone in the top grossing has been
I know,
very
you
successful.
can't play favorites, but Maria?
I'm excited about the game companies that have been able to move from one platform to another. So I don't know, I think that, for example, what Kabam and Buga have done, they're one of the big giants of gaming, but they started in a different platform, they figured out mobile. I think it's very cool to see all that talent coming either from web or from console, like these people that are able to take the skills from one platform and then figure it out on a new one.
I think and the point of talent is great. Actually, personally, I care less about who's the CEO. I care much more about who's the lead coder and who's the lead artist. Because ultimately, it's their pedigree that's going to ultimately
CEOs are usually Girl Fridays or Board Fridays anyways. So thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
And thanks very much, guys.